Hello everyone, and welcome to another video. Today we are going to be talking more about the legislative branch of the government, mostly about qualifications to run for office. Starting off, we are going to talk about qualifications for office in the House. Now, we're talking about the House of Representatives here. Okay, so the Senate, size, election, and terms. You should not be very surprised by these facts. Nearly a third of the present members of the Senate once served in the House of Representatives. None of the current members of the House has ever served in the Senate. Indeed, many of the men and women who now serve in the House look forward to the day when they hope they will sit in the Senate. As you read, you will come to see why the Senate is often called the upper house, meaning it is seen as a higher position in office. Formal qualifications. The Constitution says that a member of the House must 1. Be at least 25 years of age, 2. Have been a citizen of the United States for at least 7 years, and 3. Be an inhabitant of the state from which he or she is elected. Custom, not the Constitution, also requires that a representative must live in the district he or she represents. The custom is based on the belief that the legislator should be familiar with the locale he or she represents, its people, and its problems. Rarely then does a district choose an outsider to represent it. That only makes sense. If your job is to be a representative for an area and a group of people, you should be from there. That just makes sense. So, while that is something that has been followed in the present day, it is not a requirement from the Constitution. Formal qualifications. The Constitution makes the House the judge of the elections, returns, and qualifications of its own members. Thus, when the right of a member-elect to be seated is challenged, the House has the power to decide the matter. Challenges are rarely successful. So whenever a new person is elected to the House of Representatives, there can be a challenge to have that person be seated, but these rarely ever happen. And whenever they do, they're even more rare that it actually goes through or is successful. The House may refuse to seat a member-elect by majority vote. It may also punish its members for disorderly behavior by majority vote, and with the concurrence of 2/3, expel a member. So the House of Representatives does have the power and authority to vote to expel a member of the House. They can choose a representative that they feel has done some egregious act, and with a 2/3 vote, expel them from the House of Representatives. Once again, this does not happen very often. Informal qualifications. The realities of politics produce a number of informal qualifications for membership in the House, beyond those requirements set out in the Constitution. These informal yardsticks vary from time to time, sometimes from state to state, and even from one congressional district to another within the same state. Clearly, some of those factors that attract or repel voters in a heavily urbanized district differ from some of those that influence how voters see candidates in a largely rural setting. So there are going to be qualifications that each area is looking for in a representative. You want somebody that has some experience with the problems that you are facing. These informal qualifications have to do with a candidate's vote-getting abilities. They include such considerations as party identification, name familiarity, gender, ethnic characteristics, and political experience. Being the incumbent, the person who currently holds the office, almost always helps. Regularly, well over 90% of those members of the House who seek re-election do so successfully. Okay, let's talk about that word there, incumbent. If you ever are paying attention to the news whenever they're talking about an election or any sort of coming into office, you're going to hear the word incumbent brought up. The incumbent refers to the person that is currently in that office and is seeking re-election. So in the 2020 presidential election between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, Donald Trump was the incumbent because he was the current sitting president and was seeking re-election. Now, in an election where there is no one seeking re-election and it's two two new candidates, such as in the 2016 election between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump at the end of Barack Obama's presidency, there was no incumbent. Barack Obama had already served his 2 terms. He couldn't serve for another term, so there was no incumbent in that election. Much more so today than in the past, a candidate's fundraising abilities also figure into the mix of informal qualifications. Like all other races, congressional campaigns have become very expensive. The average amount spent on a winning bid for the House topped $1.4 million in 2010. Several winners and some losers spent a good deal more than that. The right combination of these informal measures will help a candidate win nomination and then election to the House of Representatives. The wrong mix will almost certainly spell defeat. Running for office has become a very, very expensive ordeal. And as things progress, it's going to become even more and more expensive. So that is why one key ability that candidates should have is the ability to fundraise or to attract people to donate to their campaign, to their election bid. So that is one of the, it's not what it's supposed to be, but it's the reality of the situation. Okay, now we're going to start talking more about the Senate in the second half of this lesson. Here we have a picture of Senator Harry Reid on the left here. This is Harry Reid. And then this is John McCain over here on the right. Now, John McCain has since passed away. He passed away last year, I do believe it was. And he had run for president in the past. A lot of members of the Senate will then run for president. A lot of presidents in the past have served in the Senate. That's just kind of like, and a lot of senators once served in the House of Representatives. So while it's not required to have prior political experience in Washington, D.C., typically people will serve in the House of Representatives, and then they serve there for a few years, and they get elected to the Senate, and they serve there for a good many years, and then typically they will make a bid for the presidency. Doesn't have to happen that way. To run for president, you don't have to have any political experience at all. Look at our current president, Donald Trump. He has no political experience at all and ran for the presidency. So while prior political experience isn't required, typically they do. The vast majority of the time, whenever someone is elected to the Senate or the House or the president or the presidency, they have some form of political experience. Okay, here's a chart that shows how the number of seats has grown over time with the size of the country. The number of seats in the House grew rapidly until 1929. The number of seats in the Senate grew more slowly and then leveled off. If you think about what could cause this growth, if you just look at this chart, it doesn't take you very long to see it at all. We just got more states. You see as it grows over time, down here at the bottom, 20 states, 28 states, 37, 45, just over time, when you get more seats, you have to have more representatives and more senators. So that's just how that worked out. Senate size. The Constitution says that the Senate shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, and so the Senate is a much smaller body than the House of Representatives. Today, however, the Senate is a much larger body than the framers imagined. The Senate had only 22 members when it held its first session in March of 1789, and 26 members by the end of the first Congress in 1791. Like the House, the size of the upper chamber has grown with the country. Today, 100 senators represent the 50 states. The framers hoped that the smaller Senate would be a more enlightened and responsible body than the House. Many of them thought that the House would be too often swayed by the immediate impact of events and by the passions of the moment, mostly because of the short term of office for members of the lower chamber. They reinforced that hope by giving senators a longer term of office and by setting the qualifications for membership in the Senate a cut above those they set for the House. James Madison saw those provisions as a necessary fence against the fickleness and passion of the House of Representatives. Nearly a century later, Woodrow Wilson agreed with Madison. It is indispensable that besides the House of Representatives, which runs on all fours with popular sentiment, we should have a body like the Senate which may refuse to run with it at all when it seems to be wrong. A body which has time and security enough to keep its head, if only now and then and but for a little while, till other people have had time to think. Woodrow Wilson, Congressional Government. So they're saying here that the House of Representatives is set up in a way so that it can immediately react to things, to the passions of the people. Whereas the Senate is supposed to take longer and deliberate longer and to maybe not react with emotion and passion in the moment, and to sort of let things cool down and then think longer about things. So it's set up in a way to do just that. Okay guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. I hope everybody's having a great day, and I'll see you again real soon.